Welcome back to the Team to Be Miami Heat podcast, your one-stop shop for daily Miami Heat content. My name is Amir. For today's episode, I got a special guest joining. We got Martel. You can find him at the Miami Heat Zone podcast. Make sure to go to Martel's channel. He's pushing to 6,000 subscribers. So let's get Martel to that mark. And thank you for watching. So Martel, saw a recent report on Twitter saying that Anfernee Simons might be on the trade block from the Portland Trailblazers. And they said for some reason, and I'm confused, I don't know if you're confused or what your take is on this, but this was from like Brett Siegel, NBA, I think, said that the Miami Heat could be a destination for Anfernee Simons as he's going to become a restricted, or not a restricted, but he's going to be on an expiring contract next season. So why the hell do you think they mentioned the Miami Heat? Like, we already have Tyler Hero. Like, I don't understand like why they're saying that we could be a destination. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's very random. I just think that the Miami Heat, they have a lot of things to address. I mean, scoring is one of them. I just don't see how Simons really improves this Miami Heat roster. He is kind of like another Tyler Hero. They're paying him $100 million. Like I said, I think he's a great athletic point guard, but I just don't think he fits this Miami Heat team.
You're like, were they like, who would we trade for him? Like, would it be
And
for
plus,
Hero? Is that the insinuation? Like, or do we expect them to play together? Because that's redundant. They're both shooting guards. Like, they both need the ball in their hands. Like, I mean, when Tyler plays off ball, like we saw when he played against the Hawks in that victory, like Tyler looks a lot better when he's off ball, right? Like, I think he looks better with that catch and shoot. But it doesn't make sense like playing them together because it's redundant. Like, we need a point guard. We need a floor general. Like, Tyler looks better with a Davion Mitchell. Like, Terry Rozier is what, like, is similar to like an Anfernee Simons, right? Except for Terry Rozier has been horrible since he's been on the Miami Heat. Like, that doesn't really work out too well having two guys that with that similar skill set. So, like, do you expect them to trade Tyler for that? And would you, if that's the case? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
see, but now that also leans into a whole nother conversation. But I just don't think the Miami Heat and Joe Cronin are ever going to do a deal. If we couldn't get Dame, I highly doubt, because think about it. Anfernee Simons is pretty much one of their best pieces over there. Obviously, they're going to want a very good type of compensation, and I think teams like the Spurs and the Orlando Magic, who lack scoring, I think those teams would definitely try to put one or two first round picks for a guy in Simons, or they would be at least more willing to pay for a guy like him. Once again, I think he's a great player. I just don't think he really fits with this Miami Heat team. And then, like I said, I hate Joe Cronin, and I don't think him and the Miami Heat will ever make another deal.
Yeah, I agree. And I wouldn't do it for Tyler because obviously I think Tyler is a better version of Anfernee Simons. Like, so Tyler has 2 seasons left on his contract, 31 million next season, 33 after that. So the only reason you would do it is because Simons has a less of a contract length left. So he's making 25 this year and 27 next year. So he's expiring, right? So you do that because then Tyler Hero like is going to ask for that max extension, right? Where he's going to be making upwards of 48 million or whatever it is per season, which I think that's a different conversation to have. But if Miami wants to get off of his contract a year ahead, that's where you trade Simons. But I don't think you trade Simons for him because, I mean, Simons is averaging 19 points per game. He averaged 22 last season. But he's injury prone himself. Like, he's played 70 games once. Tyler has never done that, but he hasn't played 70 games since he was 20 years old. You know, he's 25 now. That was his second season. He played 46 the season before, 62, 57. So it doesn't make as much sense because I think Tyler's kind of leapfrogged him overall as a offensive player and just, I think, a player overall. So I don't know. Like, I wouldn't do it for Tyler, but then again, I wouldn't want to pair him with Tyler. Like, if we match salaries and trade a Jaime and whoever, right? Like, to match salaries, like a Kyle Anderson, like, I still don't think it like makes ultimate sense for the Miami Heat. But the other rumor that could possibly be out there that I wanted to discuss is maybe Giannis, the Greek freak, could possibly be on the trade market. I don't know if he's going to be actually, but we saw that, Damian Lillard has deep vein thrombosis, so he has a blood clot similar to what Chris Bosh had. And they're actually saying, which is great news, that he might be able to return this season, right? I thought he was probably going to be out for the rest of the season and the playoffs. But that's great news, right? I'm happy for that. But that might not be the case. And if he does miss the playoffs, that's going to be the second season in a row that Dame and Giannis didn't get to play together. And Giannis is 30, 31, but like Dame is 35. Like he's only getting older, right? So do you see a world where Giannis does ask out, even though he recently said a month ago in a interview that like I don't think I would ever ask for a trade. I'm not that kind of guy, but you never freaking know. Like just because he doesn't ask for a trade doesn't mean he can't get traded. Just like how Nico traded Luka Doncic. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think Giannis is ever going to be traded or ask for a trade? And if so, how can the Miami Heat get him, and who the hell do we have to trade for to get him? Because that's going to be everybody in the cupboard, right? So, what do you think?
The Miami Heat cannot get Giannis. I just think that anyone can be traded. I mean, we saw the Luka trade. Now, I really just think it comes down to not only Giannis, but then all these other teams. That it's going to be a bidding war. Like I said, the Milwaukee Bucks, they don't just randomly get superstars out of the blue. So obviously, they're going to now put it out to the whole NBA. They're not just going to do a sneak trade, but they're going to put it out to the whole NBA to see how many first round picks they can get and how many young players that they can get. But Giannis, he's already hinted to being traded or just, pretty much leaving the Milwaukee Bucks. He's been linked to the Miami Heat. He's been linked to the New York Knicks. He's been linked to a bunch of other teams. I just think that if they can't keep him happy, which I think they made the wrong trade, they should have traded Middleton instead of Drew Holiday. I mean, think about it. They ended up trading both of them anyway, but they should have traded Middleton first and then kept Holiday. They probably could have still been able to get Dame. You know what I mean? But I just think that they traded the wrong guy, but that's just me. But in terms of the Miami Heat being able to get Giannis, we do not have any assets to compete with any team to get Giannis Antetokounmpo. The only way we could do that is if he legitimately forces his way here, which for some strange reason, all these other NBA stars can do it. But whenever it's time for them to come to Miami, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, what about? Do you think if we offered Bam all of our picks, Jaime, Jovic, and some other, I don't know, some other piece, do you think that would be enough? Let's say we can get 4 picks, Bam and Jovic and Jaime. Would you do? Would you do that? And do you think it's enough? That's a 2-part, and we'll close there. Would you do it? And is it enough?
The problem is then you're starting from scratch because what does Giannis want? Does he want to start from scratch? Is he willing to start from scratch? Or does he want to at least go to somewhat of a competitive team? Because once again, if you trade Bam, and like I said, I know a lot of people don't like Bam because sometimes he's not aggressive and he doesn't put up crazy numbers and he's not a number one option. But once you trade Bam, yeah, you're getting Giannis, but unless you have all these other free agents that are willing to come on cheap deals and you're able to build a team around him in the next 3 to 4 years, you might be screwed. And that's hard. It's not easy building teams anymore with the new CBA and all these different rules that they have right now. And especially how with the 2 ways, there's just so many different rules. It's harder to build championship teams now. You need an all-around team. There's no more of that big 3. Big 3s aren't really winning anymore. It's who really has the best team, who's healthy, and who has chemistry on their roster. Once again, I just don't see any scenario possible where in Miami he could land Giannis. And to be honest, like I said, trading Bam, that means you're pretty much starting over. Because
I wouldn't
Tyler's
say
gone.
so. I'll say this though. Think about this though. If let's say this offseason we do it, Bam's going to be making 50 million. Giannis is making 58. So that matches like with Jaime and Jovic. I think those 3 could automatically match right there for Giannis' salary. How are you starting over? You still have Tyler Hero. You still have Andrew Wiggins. You still have Khalil Ware. You still have possibly you could still re-sign Davion Mitchell. We talked about that on your channel today, right? Like if you could re-sign Davion, you're still going to have Duncan Robinson on the books because he's going to be expiring, but you have him, which is going to be perfect if you have a starting lineup of Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson. You got 2 lethal shooters with Andrew Wiggins who could also shoot and play defense, and you have Giannis who could play defense, who's arguably one of the better defenders in the NBA, right? One of the best defenders in the NBA when he puts his mind to it. And you have Khalil Ware, who's a plus defender. So, and then we need to sign guys off the bench. Maybe, I mean, you're going to be forced to play Terry Rozier in that sense because he's going to be making 24 on an expiring. So you have Terry Rozier coming off the bench. You still have Kyler Anderson on the bench coming off the bench. Then you get a Burks to re-sign for like a veteran minimum or Alec Burks types of guys off the bench who could, hit the 3. You still have Haywood. Does that change your perspective though? Like, would that be enough then? Because right, we're not starting over. I get your point. That still might not be enough, but we're not completely starting over. But you have in the starting lineup, you have Duncan, Tyler, Giannis, Wiggins, and Kalel. That's compelling enough because you're throwing in a 31-year-old who's not that old yet. He's still in his prime. We saw what Jimmy did when he came at age 30. Giannis is one of the best two-way players in the NBA, NBA champion, MVP, scores 30 a night, like has the shooting around him with Tyler Hero as his sidekick. Like that's pretty compelling. I like is Bam enough of a cornerstone for the Bucks? I think it might be because maybe not if he was maybe if he was a little bit younger, like for sure. I think if it was 2 years ago, then like they'd be like, hell yeah, we'll take that. And Miami might be a little more hesitant, but I don't know, man. Bam and 4 picks. Think about that. Like I know like the market reset after the Mitchell trade and the Gobert trade and all that stuff, but like the player typically like outside of like a Markkinen, like who else has been like very amazing that has been traded? Like even Markkinen is not that great compared to Bam Adebayo if you compare them, right? Usually it's all about the picks. If you're getting 3 to 4 picks, then you're not getting as good of a player, right? You're getting that Markkinen Sexton kind of guy. Bam is better than that. That package is better with Bam, Jaime, and Jovic. But you don't know how desperate another team is that can package other players, right? To your point, like on the market. So do you think it's compelling? Do you think it's enough? Bam and 4 picks, Jovic and Jaime? I think it's compelling. I don't know if it's
It's
going to get it done.
it's compelling, but it's like what you said. I just don't know if it gets done. Because, like I said, bro, the NBA, bro, some teams are willing to do crazy trades. As you can see, Luka was traded overnight. You don't know who else. Next thing you know, you see Shea traded. You see, the Joker traded. There's just so many different trades that could possibly go down. And like I said, for some strange reason, the Miami Heat, they're always in the mix in terms of, yeah, you might see them on a report, but they're not really ever getting anything done, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're always linked, but we never close at this point, especially lately. So anyway, thanks for hopping on, Martel. Appreciate the time. So yeah, we'll keep you posted on any new information. Again, the Anfernee Simons news seems ridiculous that he's linked to the Miami Heat. I think the Giannis link is more credible, or there's a higher likelihood that we would get Giannis somehow through this whole hypothetical scenario versus us getting Anfernee Simons, or even having a conversation with Joe Cronin in general, right? For any Portland Trailblazer, like I don't think Pat is gonna ever talk to Joe. I don't think Joe Cronin exists in Pat's mind, even though Pat tried to fleece him and fucked up. Like it doesn't matter. Pat has that arrogance, right? Like he's better. Like Joe Cronin's a nobody compared to Pat Riley. So anyway, thanks for hopping on, Martel. Appreciate it. And again, guys, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Team to Beat Miami Heat, and Martel's the Miami Heat Zone podcast.